Daniel Ortega from Managua in just a moment. First, a look at the growing discontent among the people there and what the revolutionary turned head of the establishment is doing to counter it. Here, national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin.
Nearly 40 years after Marxist-led guerrillas overthrew a U.S.-backed dictator in Nicaragua, the man who led that revolution, Daniel Ortega, remains in power. Since April, tens of thousands of protesters have taken to the streets. Human rights groups say nearly 300 anti-government protesters have been killed after the government tried to scale back Social Security for Nicaraguans. Now those protesters are demanding Ortega and his wife, whom he made vice president, step down. After returning from exile more than a decade ago, Ortega is consolidating power after winning his fourth term in 2016. He was embraced by Venezuela's strongman Hugo Chavez and Cuba's communist leader. 6 years ago, Iran's former president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, joined him on stage. All have been thorns in the sides of successive U.S. presidents since Ronald Reagan secretly funded the Contras to remove Ortega from power. On Thursday, during celebrations of the 1979 revolution, Ortega turned on the Catholic Church, calling its priests coup-mongers.
I don't have any intentions of carrying out a coup because I'm not a politician, nor are the bishops politicians.
U.S. legislators are warning the White House of the national security implications of a civil war in Nicaragua.
Migrants leaving Nicaragua may be headed towards the United States. You're also going to see the ability of drug gangs who are using other countries in the region to open a new corridor through Nicaragua to send their cocaine and heroin here to the United States.
Such a migratory crisis could flood the southern U.S. border, overwhelming the U.S. immigration system. Brad?
Thanks, Jennifer. President Daniel Ortega joins us tonight from Managua, Nicaragua. Mr. President, thank you for being here.
Buenas noches.
Good evening. Greetings.
Mr. President, there are multiple human rights organizations tonight saying that some 350 people have been killed just over the past 80 days. Why are paramilitary forces involved in armed actions against those who are protesting your government?
It's been a week now that turmoil has stopped. Matters are becoming more normal in the country, and there have been some demonstrations, both against and in favor of the government. It all started as a result of a law on changing Social Security, changes that were indispensable to introduce in our country. And the response was totally violent. First, it started with some demonstrations at night, but then there were armed attacks on the part of paramilitary groups that started these attacks against organizations of the state, against the police, and against families that are loyal Sandinista families, and then they started blocking the entire country. They were closing the country. They started arresting citizens and torturing citizens.
You're saying that you don't control these paramilitary groups? If you don't control them and they're acting on behalf of the government, who controls them?
These are groups that obey political organizations. Some even have elected deputies to the National Assembly. They are members of the Liberal Party. Others did not participate in the elections. They refused to do that. And they've been organizing these paramilitary groups
desde hace un buen tiempo,
for some time now,
y tratando de aprovechar cualquier
and
situación
they have taken advantage of every small situation
lanzar
in launching attacks.
Mr. President, they are attacking protesters who have called for you to step down. They are attacking protesters who say that you eliminated term limits, that accuse you and your vice president, your wife, of setting up an authoritarian dynasty. They are attacking the Catholic Church that has spoken out against your government. So you are distancing yourself from all of these attacks?
Ninguna de las
First of all,
manifestaciones
in none of the peaceful demonstrations have we been attacked.
Los choques se han presentado en horas de la noche,
At night,
cuando no hay
when there
manifestaciones
are no
pacíficas,
peaceful
y han sido
demonstrations,
los choques
we've had
provocados por
clashes
estos grupos
provoked by the
paramilitares
paramilitary
fuerzas
forces
que adversan al
organized
gobierno,
by
y
people
que
who
se
are
han
against the
lanzado
government
a
and who have
atacar, a
attacked
destruir y a intentar
and
tomar
who
estaciones de policía.
fought
Incluso
against
llegamos al
police
extremo,
stations.
cuando ninguna
Well,
dinastía,
first of all, we're not talking about any dynasty.
ni se me ocurre pues montar una
It never occurred to me to set up a dynasty.
Mi esposa es
My wife,
que es vicepresidenta.
it's the first time ever she's been vice president.
Nunca había sido
She'd not been
vicepresidenta,
vice president before.
vicepresidente.
If you aren't funding and arming these paramilitary groups, who is?
Uno financiándose con actividades
Some are
vinculadas al
financed with drug trafficking.
otro buscando también
Others
financiamiento de parte de
have
organismos,
tried to obtain financing
de organismos,
from different
de los mismos
organizations, even in the United States, organizations that have programs and activities,
dan el financiamiento por un programa determinado, pero luego esos fondos se desvían
and
y
they
se
have
utilizan
funds, and those
para entrenar
funds
y formar
are then
grupos
used to
paramilitares y
train
buscando también como
paramilitary
armas,
groups and
porque
help
ya
them get
para
weapons
asesinar
in order to murder
decenas de policías.
tens of policemen.
Se necesita ya un armamento de
You
guerra.
have to use wartime weaponry.
Persecución y
There
afectación
have
a la
been
Iglesia
no
Católica.
persecutions of the Catholic Church.
Más bien y los invitamos
Rather, we invite
a que ellos fuesen parte
the
del diálogo,
Catholic
que
Church to
contribuyeran al
continue
diálogo, para que el diálogo
with
pudiese
the dialogue
desarrollarse
so the dialogue can grow and develop
abierta.
in an open manner.
Mr. President, as you said, the Catholic Church was mediating discussions for some time, but now they believe, the Catholic Church believes, they're under attack by pro-government forces. We've seen the images, we've seen the video. You have the auxiliary bishop in Managua tweeting out, the government of Nicaragua crosses the limit of inhuman and immoral. The international community cannot be indifferent. This is a bishop in Managua. Obviously, the Catholic Church believes they're under attack from you.
Well, that responds to a certain way of thinking.
No es nuevo ese discurso de él.
Ever since
El discurso de él no es de
the
ahora.
bishop came to Nicaragua, he's been saying the same thing. Why wasn't he here during the war? He wasn't in the country during the war. He was in Rome.
Siendo
There's
perseguido.
not a single priest that we're persecuting.
No hay un solo sacerdote
There's not a single priest
pueda decir que ha sido
who can
agredido.
claim that he's been attacked by the government, by the government officials.
Incluso la iglesia las facilidades que se
The
dan
church is provided with
para
all
introducir
kinds of
incluso,
facilities,
como
and the
iglesia no tenemos
Episcopal
ningún problema con la iglesia
Conference, we
católica.
have no problems with the Catholic
En su
Church.
papel de mediación.
Mr. President, obviously the Catholic Church there on the ground believes that they are under attack. Pro-government forces fired on the Divine Mercy Church in Managua. 2 protesters killed inside. Would you tonight condemn any attacks on a sanctuary?
No ha muerto ningún nicaragüense.
No Nicaraguan has died in any church.
No ha muerto un solo nicaragüense.
Not a single Nicaraguan has died in any church. That's false.
Mr. President, to listen to the people talking that get their images out, talking about what they see are attacks, and to hear their cries, take a listen to an aunt and a mother who lost students.
Por favor.
Please, the people, United Nations, come together to save us from this disgrace that we are living through. This is not just for the government and police to be able to do this to us. Innocent boys who have a future in front of them, dead university students.
God help us during these times when Monimbo is devastated and the youth are fleeing their homes. We bury some of them. We don't know where they are taking the others.
How do you respond to them?
Well, the saddest thing, of course, is the loss of life. This terrorist attack, because it's really terrorism what's happening here. And in addition to seeing that mother crying because of the death of her son, there are other mothers who were shown where the bodies are burning. They tortured young people and they burned them. This situation is made public to scare people, to sow fear and terror among our people. These are groups that obey political organizations. Some even have elected deputies to the National Assembly. They are members of the Liberal Party. Others did not participate in the elections. They refused to do that. And they've been organizing these paramilitary groups for some time now. And they have taken advantage of every small situations in launching attacks.
Mr. President, this week the U.S. Congress is going to pass, we're told, a resolution condemning the violent actions of the Nicaraguan government against its citizens. Among other things, it will say the recent protests led by students have been met with violent and brutal response. The murders and the violence have continued, torture, disappearances. The government has also shut down media outlets, denied basic medical care to protesters, and attempted to poison their food and water, and sanctioned the murder of political opponents. That will pass the U.S. Congress this week. What message do you have to the U.S. that this is going to come to an end?
It's totally untrue. In hospitals, they've treated everybody. There are plenty of proofs of that. People in hospitals have been taken care of. There's been a campaign of lies, terrible lies, to try to hurt the image of Nicaragua and of its government, and in support of activities that have become more and more prevalent. This is not new that the Congress of the United States deals with matters having to do with Nicaragua and that it take measures against Nicaragua. The history of our relations with the United States has been painful. I don't want to repeat it.
Mr. President, 40 years ago, you were a young revolutionary fighting, as you say, a brutal family dictatorship, the Somozas. Now, the protesters on the street chant, Ortega and Somoza are the same thing. To end the violence and to help your country, would you consider you and your wife stepping down from power?
We were elected by the voters. So there have been electoral periods, there are term limits, and our electoral period ends with the elections of 2021, when we will have our next elections. And then we'll have to see who will be voted in for the new administration.
You agreed in May to have early elections, but then you rescinded that decision in June. Would you agree to have early elections, sir?
This business of moving up the elections is something I've heard about, I've heard people talk about, but I haven't indicated that the elections need to be moved up. To move up the elections would create instability, insecurity, and make things worse.
Why did you agree to this interview? What message do you have to the American people and maybe to President Trump?
We are a small country with a fragile economy, but we deserve respect. We deserve respect as any state of the United States deserves respect, no matter how small that state of the Union is. They deserve respect, and we equally deserve respect. We are a country in this hemisphere, in this part of the world, and we have strong links of all types with the American people.
President Daniel Ortega from Managua, Nicaragua. Mr. President, thank you for the time.
Gracias.